and welcome to episode 14 of the Crash and Ride podcast. I'm Patrick Ferguson. I'm your host. Today's guest is Sam Paulsen, guitar player for Man or Astroman, also the guitar player in the band Mean Queen, and formerly the guitar player of the groundbreaking noise rock combo We vs. the Shark. Crash and Ride is a long-form interview podcast where I talk to musicians who've survived anxiety and depression. You can find past episodes at www.patreon.com/crashandride or via Apple Podcast or Stitcher or wherever you usually get your podcasts. I'm a little hoarse today. I'm really tired. I've been sick for a couple of days. I've been on the road a lot lately. But I really enjoyed my conversation with Sam, and I believe that you will too. As I mentioned, I'm a working drummer. I play with the rock band 5/8 from Athens, Georgia. I also play with Mike Mills from REM's side project, the Mike Mills Concerto. And I also play with the Japanese high-energy rock band Pinky Doodle Poodle, who moved here from Japan without a drummer, and I've been their drummer for the past few months. Speaking of that, we have some shows coming up. I want to talk about those real quick. June 9th, we're playing the Mag Bar in Louisville, Kentucky. June 10th, we're playing the Radio Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee. June 12th, we're playing Snug Harbor in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's the second of 4 weekly shows we're doing as a residency there at Snug Harbor. June 13th, we're playing Sly Grog Lounge in Asheville, North Carolina. June 14th at the Hideaway in Johnson City, Tennessee. June 15th at the 8th State Brewing Company in Greenville, South Carolina. June 18th, we're back here in Athens, Georgia at the rooftop of the Georgia Theater. And June 19th, we're back at Snug Harbor in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got a whole bunch of shows in June and July, so, tune in for more details. Come to a show, introduce yourself, shake my hand, we'll talk it out. I'm a big fan of live music myself and try to get out to see as many bands as possible. If you need to contact the show, crashandride@protonmail.com is our email. That email is encrypted. It's private. Nobody reads it but me. I'll protect your anonymity at all costs. If you have questions or if you'd like to suggest a guest or maybe be a guest yourself, just email us there, crashandride@protonmail.com. Crash and Ride is brought to you in part by Greer Amplification. Greer Amps builds the best boutique effects pedals available. If you're looking for an overdrive, boost, fuzz, compressor, or tremolo that is rugged, road-tested, and at home on stage, in the studio, or in your living room, Greer has a pedal for you. Nick and his staff strive to build the best products around with the best tone you've ever heard. They believe in their products, and they stand behind them too, backing each one up with a lifetime warranty to the original owner. Each Greer Amps product is hand-built in Athens, Georgia, USA. Go to www.greeramps.com or visit your local music retailer today. Crash and Ride is also brought to you by Jittery Joe's, a local coffee roaster here in Athens, Georgia. Jittery Joe's has created a Crash and Ride espresso blend. It'll soon be available in their web store. It'll also be available on the Crash and Ride web store that we're working on right now. If you subscribe at $35 a month to our Patreon subscription program, I'll send you a can of those beans every month, postage paid. That's www.patreon.com/crashandride. Remember, if you're having a tough time and you're contemplating thoughts of self-harm and you don't know where to turn, you can always call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 24/7, it's confidential, it's free. That's 1-800-273-8255. There are trained volunteers there to try to help you navigate your crisis and maybe hook you up with some community resources so you don't have to go through this alone. That's 1-800-273-8255. All right, that's all the announcements I have. Let's get into our interview with Sam Paulsen. Here with Sam Paulsen. Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Sam is guitar player for Man or Astroman and Mean Queen, formerly of We vs. the Shark. You've been in Athens a long time, huh?
Yeah, 16 years now, I think.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in Dallas, grew up in Colorado.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Kind of bounced back and forth.
Yeah. Did you have one parent in each town or something? Or?
No, my parents just like to move a lot, and my dad was a firefighter, mom was a nurse, and we moved from Dallas when I was real little because they wanted to get away from Texas, and went to a bunch of different schools and bounced back and forth between family in Dallas. And then they actually were on their way to move to Seattle and broke down in Colorado Springs. And the person who stopped to help them with their car was the fire chief of the fire department in Colorado Springs. And they got along really well, offered my dad a job, and we parked there for a little bit. And
that's amazing.
Kind of bounced around a little bit.
That's so serendipitous.
Yeah.
How long were you? How old were you when this happened?
I was 3 when we first moved from Dallas to Colorado, and grew up a little bit, kind of bounced back and forth in between Colorado Springs and Denver. And then when I was in high school, my dad got sick and we moved back to Texas for a minute and then back to Colorado, kind of bounced around. So I ended up going to 3 different high schools and moved a bunch then.
What kind of sick did your dad get?
It took a long time for them to figure it out, but he has this disease called MENS, which is multiple endocrine neoplasm syndrome. He basically has a bunch of benign tumors on all of his glands, like his pituitary gland and stuff like that.
How's that manifest itself?
Well, that was the problem, is they thought it was everything else. So they tried to treat him for everything else. And he ended up getting pancreatitis and losing some bone density and having multiple surgeries. And so he got worse before he got better, before they actually figured out what it was. And now he's a lot better, but he had to retire early from his career. And he's been really bored in his early retirement because he was very active.
He's doing okay now?
Yeah, he's doing okay now.
Where does he live now?
They're in Colorado.
Still?
They just sold their house. Every couple of years they sell their house and they kind of live in their motorhome for a little bit until they find where they want to live again. So right now they're in their camper, and my mom's very bored already. So my brother lives in Colorado Springs, so they're thinking of buying a house there. But yeah, every couple of years they're kind of nomadic, and they'll live in their motorhome and drive around until they find a house they want to buy, and they buy it and fix it up and then sell it and
Did you feel like your childhood was kind of nomadic then?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it hard to form friendships?
Yep. That's why I started playing guitar.
Man, we've jumped right in here.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started playing guitar?
I got my first guitar when I was 13. Before that, though, I was always the kind of kid who sang along to everything on the radio, and I played keyboards and a couple little, instruments in elementary school, like recorder and, those little things.
So you always had musical aptitude? Always
had music, yeah. My parents didn't understand how I knew all the lyrics to all the pop songs on the radio.
When you were just a like 4 or 5 year old? Yep,
just into it. There's a recording of me my parents have somewhere of me singing the Carpenters song, We've Only Just Begun, which is their wedding song, on a keyboard they bought me. And my mom cries still every time she listens to it.
Is it on like cassette at the house or something?
Yep.
We should digitize that for them.
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
got a decent cassette deck in a box here somewhere. So
yeah. But about when I was 13, I wanted a guitar, so they got me one for my birthday, and that's all I did for a couple years in high school, was sit in my room and teach myself how to play guitar.
Was it an acoustic or electric?
It was electric. It was one of those little mall music store package. It was like a Lotus Strat with the tiny little amp, and they kind of got me the whole package deal to see if I wanted to play, and upgraded about a year later to an Epiphone Les Paul.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of a heavy guitar for a 14-year-old.
It was too heavy. Yeah, I played my first show when I was 15 with my first band.
What was the band called?
And Nova Goes Ballistic. It was a little punk ska band with some friends.
I love that name. Who was in that band?
My best friend Jen was in it, and 2 other friends from school. Jen was kind of the first person I met in high school, the last high school that I went to that I graduated from.
How many high schools did you go to?
3.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. So she was the first person I met that I really formed a good bond with, and I was a junior in high school, and then we spent our senior year being really good friends. And
did she play an instrument as well?
She played guitar a little bit, but she was our vocalist and lyricist, and we still keep in touch. We've been friends for a long time, but we played our first show when we were 15 in a church. And I realized that guitar was way too heavy for me, because I'd really been playing sitting down, or not really played shows, and I played it and was like, my shoulder hurt afterwards, and I was only 15. I was like, this isn't right.
So did you trade up or something?
I got a Telecaster maybe a year or 2 after that. Yeah, and I still have that Tele, and I converted it to a baritone. So I still have that Tele, but it's got a baritone neck on it now, and I play it sometimes.
Just like a Warmoth neck, or
yep.
Yeah. Have you seen the electrical guitar, like baritone Tele conversions?
Yes.
Those are super cool.
Yeah. Yes. I would love one of their guitars. I played Steve Albini's aluminum bass on one of the Astroman recordings, and
is that wedge?
I can't remember what it exactly. I just remember it was so easy to play. It was so nice.
Was Stephen Soley working at the studio when you were at Electrical?
No, not that I remember.
He's a lovely guy. He's out in Oakland now. That was with Manor Astroman, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So you had this Telecaster, and you were in Colorado.
Yep.
And you graduated from high school, and then did you come straight to Athens from there? Or?
No, I went to college at University of Colorado for maybe a year and a half.
Is that in Fort Collins? Am I crazy?
I went to the one in Colorado Springs, but yeah, the main one is in Fort Collins. Or no, Boulder. I'm sorry. Boulder is, I can't remember the other one in Fort Collins, but I went to the one in Colorado Springs, which is a smaller version of it.
Like a satellite campus.
Yeah. And about a year and a half into that, I was in another band then called Boys Who Like Audrey. That was my other one. I've always been in bands with really long names. So, let's see. We went on tour, and then my parents decided to move again to Texas, and I couldn't afford to live in Colorado by myself and go to college. So I moved with them, left school.
What year of college was that?
What year
of college?
Of college. I only went to like a year and a half of school. And they moved, and then maybe 6 months later I moved to Athens.
From Dallas?
From Dallas, Fort Worth, yeah.
So I think that you started working at the Jittery Joe's or whatever it was.
Espresso Royale.
It was Espresso Royale downtown.
Yeah.
I remember your arrival because I've lived here 30 years, and there was a new face at the coffee shop. And so that was probably, 15 years ago?
2003. I got that job like the second day I moved here.
That's great.
Yeah.
It was a good coffee shop.
It was. I liked it. I worked there almost a decade, 9 or 10 years.
And then you went to Ike and Jane's, right?
Yeah. For a little bit while I was in nursing school.
Ike and Jane's, for people who don't live in Athens, is our sort of voodoo donut. Not quite as more of a little more restrained than voodoo donut.
Yes.
But delicious, and my daughter's favorite place.
Yeah, my best friend owns that.
I didn't know that.
Yep, Corey.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And when did you join We Versus the Shark?
I moved to Athens to start that band with Luke. So, kind of out, I can't remember what year we met, but I met Luke and Jeff online on LiveJournal.
Really?
Yeah. And we had talked for probably a couple years online and on the phone. And Jeff was going to school in New York, and Luke was going to UGA. Mm-hmm. And when I moved to Texas, I wanted to keep playing music, but I didn't really meet anyone I wanted to play with that had any similar musical interests. So,
what were your musical interests then?
At the time, it was indie rock, mathy. It was like I had just discovered Farrakut and some DC bands, Fugazi and Burning Airlines, Promise Ring, stuff like that. And I moved to Fort Worth, and of course I had moved every couple years, pretty much my whole life, and moved to Fort Worth and met a couple people that I'm still friends with, but really no one to play music with. And that's really what I wanted to do. And I found myself just working, I think I was working 3 jobs and looking into going back to school, but not really excited about any of it. And I just really wanted to play music. And Luke was like, hey, I'm on summer break. Come visit me. Come check out Athens. You might like it. And Jeff and I flew into Atlanta, and we hung out with Luke for a week. And
did you guys bring guitars?
I didn't bring one, but we borrowed them. But we had our first band practice with our friend Naveed on drums, and just to hang out. I was probably 18 or 19, and we came to Athens, and I moved to Athens like a month or 2 later. I remember flying home, and my parents picked me up at the airport, and I was old enough. I was 18 or 19, but I kind of made up the fact that I hadn't met these people before, because it was, I'm 36, 37 now. So it was a while ago, and meeting people on the internet was weird and maybe dangerous. And I kind of did this thing and didn't tell them. I was like, oh, I'm meeting some friends that I already know. And they picked me up at the airport, and they're like, how was Georgia? And I said, it was good. I'm moving there. And they thought I was joking. and I was like, no, I'm going to move there. And luckily they were very supportive, and they were like, we're scared, but you are independent and we trust that you can figure it out. And they helped me move out there. And yeah, I moved maybe 2 months later, something like that. It was real fast.
Yeah,
it was not thought through at all. It was one of those decisions where I came to Athens and I immediately knew that I needed to move here. And I went home, packed my stuff up. I had like nothing in my bank account and moved out here. And
nobody in Athens has anything in their bank account, so you fit right in.
It was cheap enough that, we found an apartment and I got that job at the coffee shop a couple days later and I've been here ever since.
Did you and Jeff get an apartment or you and Luke?
Me and Luke, yeah. And then Jeff moved like maybe 6 months later, he moved down.
Yeah.
And in that time, Luke and I had already written some songs and played a show or two as a duo. And
you listed, when you talked about the bands you were into, they were all mostly kind of melodic post-hardcore stuff, but We versus the Shark was like pretty noisy, like super, I don't know, is the word confrontational? Like there was definitely
chaotic.
Yeah.
I think is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys were kind of blazing a trail there.
Yeah, I felt like we were. And it was the music scene in Athens was different from anything I had experienced before. I had gone to a lot of shows in Denver growing up. And
did you go to 15th Street Tavern?
Not that I remember, no.
This the last interview I did was with a musician named Josie Cool, who was from Denver. And she was talking about how much she loved the 15th Street Tavern, but it didn't sound like a very nice place.
I can't even remember now venues. Bluebird is still there. I used to go to big shows there. And, but yeah, I don't remember being involved in such a music scene that was just full of friends. When I moved here too, I had all these people that I met online on LiveJournal. So I moved into this established group of friends and they knew who I was and they were like, Sam's moving to town. And it was this whole new experience for me, having gone to different schools and not having an established group of friends or anything. I kind of moved into this family almost, and I felt it was just such a nice new feeling for me. So
moving to Athens for me was like that scene in the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer when they arrive at the island of misfit toys. I was like, oh, I fit somewhere.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Yeah.
I had two friends down from Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, and I took them around Athens, and it was like Memorial Day weekend. There was nobody here, but we just kept running into more musicians. Like, oh, here's another musician. And, of course, everybody's a dishwasher too, or, a grad student or whatever. Yeah. But everywhere we looked, there were more musicians, and they were. I think that they went back to Indy thinking, I think I could make a go of it in Athens. We'll see. I wouldn't blame anybody for moving here.
Yeah.
It's not a great place to make a great living, but it's a great place to make a lousy living.
Yeah.
So you move in with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
You've established this community before you even arrived.
Mm-hmm.
You confided to me before we sat down to do the interview some time ago that you struggle with anxiety, and I'm wondering if that's a byproduct of your sort of kind of rootless early life, or do you think that it might have something to do with your dad's illness, or is there just an ambient?
I don't know.
What's your first
I didn't know this
memory?
was going to be a therapy session.
Well, no,
a little bit. No, I'm just kidding.
I am not a therapist. Look at the disclaimer out there now that I'm just another guy who's been kind of through it. So
no, I've always been pretty introverted, and it didn't help that I moved around a lot because I became more introverted and not, establishing big friend groups. And I spent a lot of time alone, especially when I got my guitar. That's all I wanted to do. I was obsessed, but that's all I did. And I've always kind of had a type A personality, perfectionist, slightly OCD, always have like putting that stress on myself to do everything perfectly. And I'm the first child. I'm the good kid. My brother was the troublemaker, and I was.
Are there just two of you?
There's just two of us.
How much older are you?
4 years.
Oh man. Yeah.
So we were never, in the same school ever.
Right.
Too, but
where's he now?
He's in Colorado Springs.
Is he doing okay?
Yeah. He works for the FBI now. He's a deputy sheriff and works on some FBI task force.
Oh.
Yeah. He loves
They have a
it.
lot less to do now.
Yeah.
Because everything's legal in Colorado.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I've always struggled with anxiety growing up, and kind of just secluded myself from it instead of dealing with it. And it took me a really long time to actually admit that it was anxiety, and I kind of made excuses for it forever. Until just recently, honestly, up until like a year or two ago, that I really faced it and was like, okay, this is anxiety and you need to do something about it. I just kind of pushed it away, or, just kind of made excuses, or, like, oh, I'm stressed out, or I'm feeling this way because of everything else. And really, once I admitted that it was anxiety, and I went and talked to somebody about it, and got, medication, and, figured out how to deal with it instead of just shove it back in. And it really is a new thing for me to talk about it and to be open about it. So,
I mean, it's tough. I mean, because anxiety, first thing it tells you is there's something wrong with your brain. Yeah. Like there's something wrong with you. Sometimes for me, it manifests as like there's something wrong with your body. Like that pain in your chest, that's serious. You should worry about that. And of course, that compounds it, and then that just gets worse. And talking about it isn't easy. So, were you sort of bookish as a kid?
I was quiet.
Yeah,
I was the quiet kid. Even when I started playing guitar and stuff, I would hide. I'd shut my door and be real quiet. And I remember a certain time when I loved to sing, and I would practice singing along to whoever I was listening to at the time. And I thought I was just in my room by myself, but my mom at one point was like, oh, I heard you singing and it sounded really good. And I was so embarrassed that she heard me. And I like stopped singing for a little bit, because for some reason, it just like gave me all this anxiety that someone was listening and I didn't know. And so I was real quiet.
And your anxiety was about not being good enough. Was there like that? Was that a pattern for you? Like never feeling quite good enough?
Yeah. My dad will tell a story about the first time I missed a spelling word in elementary school. I think it wasn't until the 4th or 5th grade. I was one of those straight A students, always got hundreds on everything. And I missed a spelling word on something, and I had to go home sick from school because I was so distraught over missing a word. But I don't know where that anxiety came from, because my parents were always very supportive. They never drilled anything as far as, you have to be this person, or you have to get these grades. So I feel like it's all, I don't know where that came from. I haven't figured that out yet. But
yeah. You mentioned before we turned the microphones on that you were close to your grandma. Where was she?
She lived in Fort Worth. So all of my relatives mom and dad's side live in Dallas and Fort Worth.
I was just in Fort Worth. Yeah. With the Mike Mills thing. Yeah. The band I play with. We played the Bass Performance Hall. Have you been in that place?
I haven't, but Fort Worth is getting cool.
I like Fort Worth.
Arts and music, all that stuff has really expanded in the past few years, and I think Fort Worth is becoming a new sort of art and music mecca for Texas.
I've got friends there, and whenever I'm there, I'm just super happy. Yeah. That Bass Performance Hall is nuts. Do you know Matt Gentling, the bass player from Archers of Loaf?
I have not met him, I don't think.
So he has
I know Eric, but
he has two crazy uncles, and they painted the ceiling. Like, apparently the Gentling family were just like notorious in Fort Worth, and I wish she was here so we could sort of tell me what I'm getting right, what I'm getting wrong, but they were fine art painters and really gifted. And there's a huge mural on the roof of the Bass Performance Center, and those two guys, they painted it. So pretty wild. Cool. But your grandma was there, and she was there the whole time your parents were kind of bouncing around.
Yep. Both my grandmas. I have one in outside of Dallas, and then my dad's mom, who passed a couple years ago, lived in Fort Worth.
Your other grandma's still alive? That's fantastic. How old is she?
She just turned 80.
Oh my gosh.
She's about to be 81. She's still, she comes to all the Manor Astroman shows in Dallas. She's standing right up front holding her beer. She's my little party grandma. She's like 5 feet tall, and she's standing right up front just yelling, "That's my granddaughter." And
how many shows does Manor Astroman play a year these days?
It's really slowed down in the past year or two. I've been in the band now almost 8 years. And when I first joined, we toured quite a bit, and we recorded an album. And then over the past couple of years, it slowed down because Brian had a baby and Rob had a baby. And now they're a couple years old. So we mostly just do festivals a few times a year. Just kind of interesting stuff that pops up. We're working on a new record now.
Oh, cool.
But it's a slow process just because
Right.
family and adult life and the whole Manor Astroman stuff has really slowed down. They still want to do it, and we have, songs to create a new album, and we're working on it. It just takes time because we all live in different places and we all have other things going on. So.
I remember seeing We Versus the Shark, and your tone was pretty distorted, kind of overdriven, and of course the Manor Astroman is more of a big, clean surf guitar thing. So, and I remember seeing some pictures from a Paris show you played where you were playing like a Vox Teardrop or something.
Oh, the Hallmark Swept Wing.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 matching guitars and a bass that matches. Hallmark is a company based out of DC. Bob Shade, kind of based on some Most Right design and era, and they've made some Manor Astroman guitars. But yeah, the one I play for them mostly is a Swept Wing, and it looks real weird, but it's cool to play.
I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah.
It was super cool. And I'm guessing it's like a single coil, big, surfy sounding guitar.
Yep.
Was that a thing you were into when you were younger?
Nope.
So it's fairly recent.
Surf was new to me. I mean, Manor Astroman asked me to join the band, and I had heard their name, but really didn't know what I was getting into. And I remember getting the message from Brian, and he's like, "Hey, we're looking for a guitar player. A couple of us have seen Me Versus the Shark, and we're looking for, we like your style, I guess. Are you interested? Here's some upcoming dates." And it was right at a time in my life when I was looking to play music again, but I didn't know how. And they kind of came right into my life at the right time. And it worked with my school schedule, and so I said, okay.
How much time did you have to learn those songs?
Not very much, and we practiced once, and then I flew to Spain and played a show with them.
Was that at Primavera?
I don't remember the name of the festival, but I remember we played with Nada Surf and Matthew Sweet, and it was, I was on the plane. And
did you meet Ira from Nada Surf?
Yeah.
That's the nicest guy.
Yeah, they're all super nice. Yeah,
I really love that guy.
Yeah.
One time he jumped in the 5.8 van and went with us.
Yeah.
Like the bus wasn't going to leave where we played with them, I think in Charlotte, and we were going to New Jersey next, and he had family, and so he just grabbed his toothbrush and jumped in the van. And was the just most gracious guest. It was great. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So how long was We Versus the Shark together?
2003 until 2008, I want to say. I'm bad with years. I can't.
How many records
keep
did you
track.
guys put out?
We had 2 full lengths and an EP. And one of the EP had a DVD with it too, which was the recording of the first album.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just wound down, or did Jeff need to go to New York, or?
No. It was my anxiety.
Tell me about that.
So I was doing a lot of work for the band. I felt like I always kind of take this role of band mom because of my personality.
Because you're a perfectionist.
Because I'm a perfectionist. I wouldn't say I'm a control freak, but I like booking shows. I like organizing. You should see the Mean Queen Google Drive. It's very organized, and I book all the shows, and I have, tour itinerary, and I take that role. And in Sharks, I really took that role, and then it started stressing me out a whole lot. So we were always of the DIY mindset. So Jeff and I did all the booking. We, recorded everything with our friends, with Mike and Joel. We kind of did everything ourselves.
Mike
Albanese.
Oh, Mike Albanese, of course.
Yeah.
And Joel Hatstead, of course.
Yep.
I mean, those guys are so great. I love recording with Mike Albanese.
Yep. And I've exclusively recorded with Mike Albanese and Steve Albini. Like, those are my 2 and I love recording with Mike. That's where Mean Queen's going in a couple weeks again.
Did you ever record with Andy Baker?
No.
He's
super sweet though.
He's the best guy.
He's so sweet. Yeah. No, I never did record with them.
In Athens to have a lot of good people running recordings, like running studios.
Yeah.
So you're stressing out.
Yep. So I was doing a lot of work and, going on tour and then coming back and being super broke and working at the coffee shop, working my butt off, going on tour, not really making money because we're an indie rock band. We made enough to survive on tour.
Yeah.
And we were kind of getting to the point where we could have used a booking agent and we could have, used some help probably having a tour manager, something like that. But I think a couple of us were too stubborn, or I never felt like we had enough money to hire people to do that for us. And I was like, well, why would I hire, we don't have money to do it. I'll just do it.
Right.
And then I started getting so stressed out, and, I was doing all the driving on tour. I remember at one point I was like rolling up their sleeping bags, and I was actually being their mom and being like, don't forget your toothbrush, and we got to leave at this time. And then we play the show and I'd be exhausted, and they're like, hey, let's hang out, let's party. And I was like, I'm too tired. And then I felt like I was becoming less fun on tour. And then I started stressing about that. And I started really hating it. I started really not liking tour because I was just constantly stressed and anxious. And I just really started hating it. And I would come home and just be exhausted and broke. And I was so worn out.
It sounds like that sine wave of anxiety and depression was sort of manifesting itself as a kind of mania on tour, right? Where you're
where I was, super
obsessing about the details.
Yep.
And then you get home and you're just like, don't bother me. I need downtime.
But I never got downtime.
Because you had to go right back to the coffee shop.
Yep.
Which is people don't really talk about how high pressure
a busy coffee shop. Yeah,
any counter job is already tough, but coffee is especially weird because you're basically a drug dealer.
Yeah. Well, and I never had a normal sleep schedule ever. I've always had insomnia my whole life. And
tell me about that.
The coffee shop didn't help that because I'd be up at 5 a.m.
Right.
And working, and then I go on tour and have the opposite sleep schedule. And now I work nights at the hospital, which is funny because I still don't have a normal sleep schedule, but I have gotten much better at sleeping. So,
you had insomnia as a child?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just always had trouble sleeping. I used to have nightmares a lot.
Really?
As a child.
Do you remember any of them?
Oh yeah. I used to have.
Can you talk about it, or is it
reoccurring nightmares? I lived in this house in Palmer Lake, Colorado, that I'm convinced was haunted.
Yeah,
that
still
sounds silly, but I had the worst nightmares of my life in that house, and I still remember them. And then for years after that, I lived in that house until 7th grade. So it was a long time ago, and up until maybe 3 years ago, I still had nightmares about that house.
What were they like?
While I was in the house, I would have nightmares about this man who, let's see, I don't know. I don't think I ever saw his face, but different situations in which I would just wake up terrified. And I remember one dream in particular where I woke up and I thought that he was at the end of the bed holding my feet, and I couldn't move, like sort of sleep paralysis. I thought I was awake, but then I actually woke up, and my bedroom was in this converted attic space. There was a little like wood panel that they were going to turn into a door, but it wasn't a door yet. So it was just this thing where it was like wedged into the wall, and I could pull it out and there was storage, But I woke up from that dream thinking that someone was holding my feet, and when I actually woke up, that thing had the wood panel had fallen open next to my bed.
Oh God.
Like someone had pushed it open,
Oh my God.
And so I was like, well, that's where he lives, is in this little crawl space. And that was terrifying. But for years after that, I would have dreams about that house, and they were always stressful or just bad, dark dreams involving that house and me being in the house and stuff like that. And I never really talked about it with my parents until a couple years ago. And I was like, I always had bad dreams in that house. And my dad was like, your mom and I talked about it, and we always did too. And we always, had this bad experience, and we had never talked about it before. And then I think it was maybe a year after that conversation with my dad that I had the first dream about that house where it was good. Like I was in the house and it was a normal dream, and everything was really bright in the house, and it was like a happy dream where we were in the kitchen cooking, my family was there, and I woke up and it was almost startling because that was the first good dream I'd ever had about that house. And the weird thing is, later that day, my dad had, I think I messaged him and I was like, hey, weird thing. We had talked about this house and these dreams, and I just had a dream about that house, and it was like a really good dream. And he called me and was like, the weirdest thing, I had a similar dream last night.
Wild.
So he thinks that whatever was involved with that house, we both felt it leave, and somehow, I don't know. My dad and I have similar dreams all the time too. That's another thing.
You guys are super close then, huh?
Yeah, it's weird. We'll always text each other when we have dreams involving each other, and usually we will be on the same wavelength as far as having dreams about each other at the same time or similar themes. And
is he a musician?
No explanation for that. Nope. Mm-mm.
Are you the only musician?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That insomnia sort of carried into your years with We versus the Shark.
Mm-hmm.
When you say insomnia, like, did you have trouble falling asleep?
Yes.
Or was it,
falling asleep and staying asleep. And that's when my anxiety was the worst, where I'd be laying in bed and it would start to physically manifest, where I'd feel this tingling and just restlessness and mind racing. And I just never really took care of it. I just kind of dealt with it, and I was tired a lot. And, it had always been an issue. When I was in high school, I had a lot of trouble, and I would, take Benadryl to help me sleep all the time. And instead of actually dealing with it, I just never, I slept when I could, when I was so exhausted that I had to.
Right.
Yeah.
So We versus the Shark sounds like it got to the point where it was just more than you could do.
Yeah, and it stopped. The stress was so bad for me that it stopped being fun. And I was like, why would I be in this band if it's not fun? And it's not what I want to do. It's just stress. Like, why? I don't need that in my life. And I remember talking to them about it and saying that I needed to step away. And it was a very emotional thing, because we had been a band for 7 years, maybe 8 years. I can't remember. But it was a huge part of my life. And I didn't realize too, in stepping away from it, suddenly I didn't know who I was after that,
Man.
so I quit. And then I remember going home and just sitting there and I was like, well,
now what do I do?
I work at a coffee shop. Like, I'm not Sam Shark right now. And who the hell am I? Like, what? When I left
5'8", I was in 5'8" from 1989 until 1999 or 98, and I quit in frustration because we had done so much work and made so little progress. There was a day I was like, swinging a hammer. I was working for Curtis Crowe doing carpentry, and I had been out of 5'8" for like 2 days, and there was another boss on that job. Curtis was sort of subbing with another guy, and he kind of climbed my ass about something I'd done wrong. And he said, man, if you're going to be a carpenter, you need to like have more attention to detail. And in the back of my mind, I thought, I'm not a fucking carpenter. I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. And that was an existential kind of crisis for me.
Yeah. I went through the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like I didn't have an identity. I wasn't Sam Shark anymore. I was just a 20-something-year-old working at a coffee shop, and what was I doing? And I really, it turned into this isolation for at least a year or two, where I went to work and I went home, and I was really depressed, and I would just go home and walk my dog and go to sleep.
You already had Bucket then, huh?
Yeah. I've had her for almost 16 years.
Bucket she's a mixed black dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Georgia black dog, pit lab, maybe.
Yeah.
She was in a friend of mine found her when she was like this little roly-poly. She weighed 6 pounds, was in a box at the end of his driveway. And it was right at this time when I was moving into a house, and I was like, I really want a dog. It's time. Mm-hmm. And it was like that same day, my coworker walked in carrying this little tiny fluff, and was like, I found this dog. Do you know anyone who wants a dog? And I was like, that's my destiny dog. Like, that's it.
There it is.
I said today I wanted a dog, and this dog came into my life. And we've been together almost 16 years now. What
happened to your friendships with Jeff and Luke after that breakup?
We're still good friends. I think I needed some space from all of it. It's weird because the couple years post that breakup, like me leaving that band, are such a blur. Like, I don't remember, because I didn't feel anything. And I was in this little pit, where I was very isolated, and I kind of secluded myself, and I don't remember a lot of it, which sounds weird, but it was such an identity crisis. And I think I just wanted to be alone for a while, and I really got too far into that. but we're still good friends. And, you know, it took a long time for me to be able to explain. I mean, up until the past couple years, really, I didn't explain myself very well in leaving. And I finally did a couple years ago. I don't know if now's the time to reveal this on here, but We versus the Shark is currently active.
Oh,
so
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
I thought Luke was like in Amsterdam or something.
Scott's in Amsterdam. Yeah,
Scott,
the drummer.
right.
Luke is still here in Athens, but yeah, we have an album.
What? This is like
breaking news.
Yeah.
Gonna be a secret, and it has been a secret for the past couple of years, but we have a new album.
Is Scott gonna come back?
To play some shows, yes.
That's such amazing news.
So we recorded his drums right before he moved to Amsterdam a couple years ago, and it was just this thing that we wanted to do for fun, with some songs that we hadn't really finished or recorded, but really wanted to. And Luke really wanted to finish them, and he was like, I don't want anyone else on these songs. Like, I want you guys on them. And we all agreed, you know, we really wanted to. And then we got in the studio and made this record that we are all 100% in love with. And
how many
it was
songs?
Really a surprise. 10.
At Mike Albanese's? The
Yep.
espresso machine. I guess I should, if we're going to talk about his studio, we should say the name.
The espresso. Yeah. Yep.
That is a great sounding studio.
I love it. I love it. And Mike and I have known each other a very long time, and I'm so comfortable recording there. He knows my style. I know his, and he's great at, you know, suggesting, you know, if I'm having trouble with a song or something, he knows me well enough to be like, why don't you try this or do this? And he's very good at suggesting things without making me feel like I'm a bad guitar player, or, you know,
right.
And well, he's very helpful, and it's very relaxed for me there, which is nice.
There can be some inherent sexism when you're dealing with engineers sometimes as a woman who plays music. And sometimes, you know, Mike's not the kind of guy to be like, well, sweetie, why don't you try, you know, like,
no,
he's such a great guy.
Not at all. And yeah, I'm 100% confident when I'm recording with him, which is important.
How long was that gap between the day that you left We versus the Shark, and the day you decided that you guys were going to start doing stuff again?
Oh, a long time.
Like 10 years?
Almost.
Because it's...
Well, maybe, I mean, less than 10, but yeah, because we played our last show, I think, in 2008. I meant to look this up before I came here because my years are fuzzy. I have a family history of Alzheimer's, so I feel like my memory's real shitty sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a long time.
Because I left 5/8 in 1998, or I think we played our last show with me and the band on New Year's Eve of 1999. And then I went back in 2007, so 9 years, or 8 years, when the drummer who had replaced me moved out to California. It's kind of a similar situation.
Yeah.
I hope that you guys, because I've been in 5/8 the second time longer than I was the first time. I hope that you get to have the same experience with We versus the Shark. Yeah. It's really exciting.
It is, and the studio was really fun. It was a way better experience than I think any of us expected at all.
Are you finding that your need for perfection is kind of lessening?
No.
Yeah.
Maybe in live shows. I used to have a lot of anxiety after live shows, over like playing a wrong note and really beating myself up over it. That has gone away a lot because I've faced the fact that I'm human and not perfect. And no one plays every single note right every time. And that took me a long time to get over. But yeah, in the studio, no, I like... not saying that any of my albums have been perfect, but for me, you know, like I still strive for that perfection, I think, in recording, as far as getting the sounds I want or getting the feel from the song that I want and that. Yeah. So
you were out of We versus the Shark for like 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. And then is that when Man or Astroman called?
Yeah. So I had been...
And that must have been a shock, right? You didn't know that was coming?
It was weird, yeah. It was kind of out of nowhere, but it was also one of those perfect timing situations. Sure. So I had just started nursing school, and I was starting to feel better about myself and my anxiety and all that stuff. And
tell me more about that.
So in those couple years after Sharks, that was when I was just super isolated, and
Right.
I didn't want to hang out with anybody. I would basically go to work, come home, walk the dog, go to the gym, and then go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for, I feel like almost 2 years. I feel like it was a long time of isolation and I didn't participate in, I didn't play music.
Were you consciously isolating?
At
Or-
first, yes. And then it just turned into this pattern of,
A habit.
yeah, just a habit. And, yeah, I don't know. It was a weird, dark time in my life where I just wanted to be alone and didn't want to participate in anything, and needed that quiet time. And then it turned into a year and a half. And
Right.
then I started feeling better. I applied for nursing school and got in, and
Was that something sort of inspired by the fact that your mom was able to have the freedom to kind of move around? And
that was part of it. I had gone to school a couple times for different things. I started at University of Colorado. I studied psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I had studied sociology, and then started to study dietetics and nutrition at UGA, but I really hated everything at UGA. I didn't like any of my teachers. I had an advisor that signed me up for classes, and I found out that I didn't need them. So I was like wasting my time and money. And I was really upset about that, and was talking to my mom one day, and she's like, just go to nursing school.
Right.
She was a nurse for 30 something years. And my mom was like, everything you've studied so far is what nursing is about. Psychology, nutrition, you're good with people.
Sure.
She's like, just go there. The program, you can find a program that's 2 years, and then you can get a job anywhere. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, once you have a nursing degree, you can do so much with it. And so I applied, and I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea what nursing was, but
I remember that. So we've been friends on social media this whole time, and I remember that you got out of nursing school and you worked, and then you stopped working as a nurse briefly.
Yep.
What was that about? Or do you feel like talking about that?
That had to do a lot with anxiety.
Yeah,
actually,
I wondered.
and imposter syndrome. That was a big part of it. And a lot of new nurses have that. You go to school, and you're basically cramming in all this knowledge. You basically have to be a doctor and a pharmacist and a psychologist. Nursing is so involved, and you are this point person for your patients, where you are going behind doctors and checking to make sure everything's right with their orders. You're double checking medications. You have to be aware of, if your patient's going critical. You have all this knowledge that you cram in.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility. And you have 2 years to learn everything like a doctor learns in how many years?
Right.
And, so when, as a new nurse, you get to the floor, and nursing school can't prepare you for what the career actually is. We have clinical time and you get to see it a little bit,
Right.
but until I was actually in the job, I had no idea. I had no idea I would have to be on the phone so much, calling doctors, talking to
Right.
social workers. There's so much involved. And I had started on day shift, and day shift is chaos. It's like you get there, and from 7 a.m. there you have people coming in asking you questions about patients that you haven't even met yet. And
Right.
it was so much stress. And being a perfectionist, type A personality, and high stress, it was too much for me.
I remember that you were really honest about it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching the countdown, like T-minus 20 days and I take my exams, T-minus 5 days and I'm going to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And then there was this well,
Shit.
if this didn't go anything like I thought it would,
Yeah.
I'm going back to work at Ike and Jane's. And
Well, and it was another timing issue with that too, in
Yeah.
that I had worked as a nurse for 6 months, and I was crying in the bathroom every shift. And I had really supportive managers, and they had talked to me about it. I mean, this is a very common thing with new nurses,
Yep.
It's, they try to talk me through the stress, and they're like, what can we do for you? Let's try and figure this out so that, you can be comfortable in this job. They're like, we know it's stressful being a new nurse. I went through the residency program where they, try to alleviate that stress and get you worked up to, being a full-time nurse. And about 6 months in, I was just 100% stressed, and I'd never felt that much at a job before, to where I did not want to go in. I did not want to do it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was really questioning everything. And my best friend who owns Ike and Jane was pregnant with her first kid. And she was almost 9 months pregnant. And her main baker quit suddenly. And she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm about to have this baby. I need someone to come in. And I took that as a sign to be like, well, I'm going to step away from nursing for a second and come help you out. So I kind of use that as an excuse.
I mean, if you make a mistake at the bakery,
you mess up some donuts and they're still delicious. But
if you make a mistake at the hospital, you know, lives are...
It's a lot of stress. Yeah. So yeah, I left in a way because I really got along with my coworkers and my supervisor, and they're like, look, we think that you will be really good at this job. If you need to step away, let's do this in a way that we can hire you back. And they were really, really sweet about it. And I was like, I need to go help my friend here. I need to take a break. And so I left. I went to the bakery for maybe 6 months and then decided to ease my way back into nursing. And we found a way for me to do it. And now I've been back for 3 years, something like that. And
so you were playing a Man or Astroman this whole time.
And but I found a way to go back to nursing. You know, I work nights now, which I really like. Yeah. And I work part-time, which is 2 12-hour shifts a week. And I feel a lot better about it. And a lot of it is experience and just feeling like I know what I'm doing finally. But that imposter syndrome is, I mean, it's...
You know, I have an episode on that.
Yeah.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Did you listen?
Not that one. I've listened to, I'm not caught up yet, but I've listened to a few of them. I should have listened to that one.
I'm really proud of that one. Yeah. This is my buddy Fez. Fez Razi is a Chicago musician. And he's one of the most gifted people I know. And when he told me I want to do an episode on imposter syndrome, my first thought was to say, are you sure you're qualified for that?
Yeah. But it's a hard thing to deal with where you're in your career and I still sometimes don't feel like I'm qualified or I know what I'm doing, but then I'll have other, like I'm charge nurse on nights now. And
tell me what that means.
It means I'm there's different levels. So you're a nurse and you have your patients, and then it's like chain of command. So charge nurse is next, and then supervisor, and then manager. So I go in and I basically, if nurses have questions or concerns, they come to me because I know about all the patients on my unit. Wow. So I do that now. And
do you spend a lot of time reading charts then?
Yeah. A lot of computer stuff. But yeah, so I have more experience than a lot of my coworkers now that I've been there a few years, which doesn't feel real. But I'm definitely a lot more comfortable with it after experience. And I will find myself in situations where I know what to do. And I'm like, okay, we need to do this. And I'm teaching other people. And then I stop and I'm like, oh, wait, I know what I'm doing now. Like, I'm okay. I'm a nurse. I'm doing this. Yeah. But it took a really long time to get that confidence, and it's not there all the time, but it's such a strange career, and it's really easy to get overwhelmed and stressed and feel like you are in the wrong place, you know?
Is that what sort of prompted your decision to start going to therapy?
Well, I actually have not been to therapy. Oh, I know that's weird.
But you're doing meds for the anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. But just talking about it more and being open about it, and it really helps. I probably should go to therapy, huh? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I tell people, one of the things that a consistent theme in the people I've talked to on the show is that their first experience with therapy is never good. Yeah. And I think it's kind of like your first band. You kind of have to learn to be in the room and learn how to be in therapy.
Yeah.
You don't it's a big gap between sitting at your kitchen table playing guitar and being in a band. Yep. And I think that there's a lot more to talking about your feelings in therapy than there is to just having them. Yeah. You know, kind of understanding the role that your feelings play and your sense of well-being, and when you can trust your feelings and when you can't. That's really important. Yeah. Because when you have anxiety, and I have anxiety, so I know that sometimes your feelings will tell you that something terrible is about to happen. I don't know if you ever saw that cartoon of the guy having the anxiety attack, and his heart and mind are going, get ready for what? Never mind that. Just get ready. You know? And you got to learn to not go with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what therapy is useful for.
Yeah.
You can kind of open up a little bit if you find the right therapist. And there's been some great ones here in Athens, and I've seen a bunch of them. There's also some kind of not so great ones.
Yeah.
You know, you got to find someone that you trust and who you can work with. And
well, it's like buying a pair of shoes. Like you have to find the ones that fit for you and that are comfortable for you.
Right.
But I did find a doctor I really like. So my primary care, that was a big part, was finding a doctor I trusted. And she's really a great listener, and was finally like the first doctor to listen to me about it and suggest,
what do you take?
Certain things. Zoloft.
Yeah.
And then I take natural things to help me sleep. I actually, now that I've been on nights for 3 years, I take, I sleep better during the day than at night. So on my days off, I find myself sleeping better during the day. So
Zoloft gave me really vivid dreams.
I've always had those, regardless of what medication I've taken.
So sounds like that.
But yeah.
And so you started a new band.
Yeah.
My
dream band. It's now my dream band.
Is it?
Yeah. I wanted to be, I've been wanting to play music with Helen for a long time, but I wanted to be in a band with someone that, Sharks, I did feel like myself in that band, but I also felt like it was driven by Luke and Jeff. They're both big creative people, and Luke at any point has like 100 songs in his head, and he's like, oh, I got this idea, I got this riff, I got this and this and this. And so we'd bounce ideas off each other, or I would add to his riffs, or, stuff like that. And this is the first band that I feel like this is me in a band. These are the songs that are coming out of me, and not me just adding myself into a band. Right. Helen and I really write together very well, and we have similar musical, I feel like she's the first person maybe ever that I have felt so comfortable writing with, and it's so natural. We really get along well musically and friendship wise, but when we write together, it's just so natural and so easy. And I think this is the first time for both of us that we have been 100% comfortable and confident.
She was in Christ's Sakes. And what else?
She had her, a project that was just her called Get Sad. But she's an amazing musician too. And,
I'm glad she got that before I got that as a podcast name, because I would have totally stolen it. Yeah. Was there like a moment that you were like, I've got to talk to my GP about the anxiety?
Yes. Well, I don't think any specific moment. I think a lot of it had to do with my sleep and work.
Right.
Where I was on night shift and just not, I'd always struggled with insomnia, but it got to the point where it was really bad. Yeah. And working 12-hour shifts is hard enough, but when you have not slept before them, and then you're having to be awake all night for 12 hours, that 13 with report before and after, I was just really struggling, and it was to the point where I just couldn't.
Did Zoloft help with that?
It did, yeah.
It makes me zoomy, so it's surprising to me.
It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But it really helped me. It calmed my anxiety enough to where I could fall asleep easier, and now I have a good routine as far as after work and sleeping, and I definitely take more time. I give myself more time to sleep. I think in being high stress and high anxiety, I've always been the type of person to have multiple jobs and multiple bands. And, in my 20s, I was nonstop. And now that I'm finally, I'm not in school, I have one job, and then I make time for music, and I make sure that I don't feel guilty on the days that I just let myself sleep.
Yeah.
Give myself time to sleep and give myself time to exercise, and not feel guilty that I'm not doing something else. And that took me a long time to allow myself to do. Well,
I should say that this was the second or third time we had planned to get together, and you were like, I have sleeping to do.
Yeah.
See, I'm really militant about protecting sleep.
Yeah.
Because I grew up with a dad, a military dad who, if you were asleep past the crack of dawn, you were basically undermining the well-being of the country as a whole.
Yeah. I always took it that I was being lazy. That's how that was my mindset. It was like, oh, I have a day off. Like, why would I sleep? Like, I need to be doing things, because
it's so unhealthy.
Yeah. And up until the past year or two, I didn't allow myself that time, and self-care and letting yourself sleep and not feeling guilty about it is very important. So yeah, I've definitely made it a point to let myself do that and not feel that guilt.
It was touring that taught me that sleep is an antibiotic.
Mm-hmm.
So is water.
Yeah.
And that I would protect my bandmates' sleep, you know. And then getting married and seeing someone who, like me, will put other people's needs ahead of their own, and being like, no, not today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna protect my wife's sleep.
Yeah.
And now I just like, I mean, I think it's the reason Keith Richards is living forever, because he sleeps until he wakes up.
Yeah.
You know, your body needs it.
Yep.
And if you don't let yourself sleep, you're just setting yourself up to get sick.
Yeah. And I see that in the hospital too, working nights. I mean, management is on us to get people baths every day and make sure we're doing all these things overnight. And I'm like, when are people sleeping?
Right.
So a big part of my own being a nurse and taking care of my patients is when they're stable and they can, and I can let them sleep, I'm going to let them sleep.
Have you heard Red Fox's routine about being in the hospital and getting woken up to be given a sleeping pill?
Uh-huh. I am 100% in the mindset that people need to sleep in the hospital, and we bug them too much, and we're supposed to wake them up every 4 hours for vital signs. And I'm like, if someone is sleeping at 3 a.m. and their previous vital signs were okay, I'm going to let them sleep. They need that, because during the day they're being bugged all day long. They've got doctors and physical therapy and social work and everyone coming to see them during the day. And I mean, sleep is so important for healing.
So Mean Queen's been 2 years now, 3 years?
I think 3 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 this summer.
Have you guys have put out a record?
No, we have an EP. It's been a slow process because we're all adults in this band, and that took a little time to be okay with too. We're all now okay with the pace that we're at, because it suits our lifestyle, and we won't ever be able to tour as much as we want to, but that's okay. When we get together, practice is great, and writing is great, and that's most of being in a band anyway. So we're excited. We're recording full length in a couple weeks and playing a bunch of shows this summer because she's on summer vacation.
Yeah.
And it's all very super positive and fun and great right now.
I've discovered, having joined Pinky Doodle Poodle, and I'm playing like crazy amounts of shows, that I'm not really 27 anymore. And as much as I'm like, awesome, we're going to play 30 shows in the next 6 weeks, like there's a part of my body that's going, oh God.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, it's been a challenge. It's, sleeping on floors at 50 is different.
Yeah.
I mean, I still love it, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
So do you do anything? You don't do therapy.
Yeah.
But the meds have really quieted your anxiety some.
I run. Running helps.
God, I'd love to run.
Running is that's my meditation time.
How far do you go?
It depends on the day. My average is 3 to 5 miles a day.
That's a solid run.
Yeah.
Every day?
Not every day, but depending on my sleep schedule and work schedule, yeah, I try.
Does Bucket go?
No, she's too old
now.
Yeah, she'll walk for a little bit, but especially in the summer heat, it's too much for her.
Yeah. I mean, in Georgia, it's too much for anybody, but
yeah. I like it though. I like the summer hot sweaty runs. That's my meditation time. I used to really hate running, and then it turned into this mental versus physical battle of the first mile would me just be like, this sucks. Like, I hate this. Why am I running?
Right.
And then all of a sudden I realized that I wasn't thinking about anything else.
Right.
And besides like, why this sucks. That's all I was thinking. But then I was like, wait, I'm not thinking about anything else. This is great. And I like running in the woods and just being alone and just being in that space for a little bit. That's really helpful.
I ride down there. I ride my mountain bike in the woods a lot at Heritage Park, and I see all kinds of crazy wildlife. Turkeys and deer, occasional fox. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I need to do more of that. I've been playing so much music lately. I haven't had time. So,
yeah. That's nothing to complain about though, right?
No, I'm happy. I mean, it's crazy. Like I'm tired and hungry all the time right now. But I'm happier than I've been in years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to a straight job, and I'm playing tons of music.
Yeah.
And it's great. And the podcast has been great. I love doing this podcast.
Yeah.
So, you know, we tend to, on this podcast, wind this up with a series of questions.
Yeah.
You've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's 8 now. I was hoping to go to 10, but then a couple of my recent interviews have hit the 2-hour mark before we even got to the questions. And I was like, I think if we had 2 more questions, we'd have to break this into 3 parts. So, you want to do the questions?
Sure.
All right. First question. What is your fondest memory of a meal that you've had?
This was maybe 5 years ago now. I got to travel to Hungary with my grandma and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's side of the family is Hungarian.
Mm-hmm. What was her name?
Her name's Edith. She's still alive.
I mean, her maiden name, I guess.
Szabo. Szabo.
That's a pretty good... Isn't that a famous restaurant, Szabo's, somewhere? Or a deli or something?
I don't know.
I'm going to Google it.
Okay. Let me know.
If I find anything cool, I'll put it in the show notes.
But I got to travel. I have an uncle who lives in Spain, so we flew to Spain. And
what part of Spain?
He's in Oviedo.
Cool.
It's on the coast up in, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But we went and saw him there and then flew to Budapest. And my grandma was born in a small city called Miskolc, which was about a 45-minute train ride outside of Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
And we went there and stayed in a house, and we found the house that she was born in.
Mm-hmm.
We found her elementary school and got to kind of experience her little town. And we walked to this restaurant that was down the street from her house. And it wasn't like a restaurant that from her childhood or anything, but we had just found this restaurant that it was just a Hungarian restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember the name of it, but I remember eating this fish dish that had sour cream and dill, and it was the most Hungarian dish I could think of, and it was so perfect and so delicious. And we sat outside and the weather was perfect, and it was just this really, really nice moment with my family and being in Hungary in this, this place that was really reminiscent for my grandma. And it was,
sounds fantastic.
It was really, really special.
What time of year was it?
Summer, early summer.
Man, those European summers are...
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. Tell me about a time that you were braver than you ever thought you could be.
Let's see. I will say that there have been some instances at the hospital that I didn't think that I would be able to handle, and I have.
Somebody coded?
I restarted a man's heart with chest compressions during a code.
That's amazing.
After he had been coded for a while and people had tried, and I was kind of a newer nurse at the time, and they were like, "Do you want to just come in and practice chest compressions?" Meaning,
right? He's
probably not going to come back.
Sure.
And I did them for a few minutes, and his heart restarted, and everyone in the room kind of looked up and was like, "Oh, well, she has this touch," or that was the feeling I got, right. I was like, "Oh," and he ended up moving to the ICU and passed later that day, but he stayed alive long enough to for his family to come and say goodbye to him. So that was a thing that I never thought I would be able to do, in the moment. And you see those situations on TV shows, and it's always chaos, and I'm like, how am I going to handle this? I don't know if I could do this. And when the moment came, you do it. And I realized I knew what I was doing, and I was, in the room with the team, and it was this calm situation. And codes are never what they are on TV. They're always this real calm and organized. Not necessarily organized, but it's this more, it's way more calm than you would ever think they were. And I didn't know that I could be calm in a situation like that and actually focus and do what I needed to do and be successful. And
it's the perfectionism though, right? Mm-hmm. You've learned by doing in your mind the thing that you're going to need to do. So when the moment comes, I understand the perfectionism. I didn't mention when you were talking about it, how man, I get it. I'm also that person in a band.
Yeah.
It's just because when I get to showtime, I want it to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my favorite answer anybody's ever given to that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question used to be, tell me about it. What's the most frightened you've ever been?
Yeah.
But I realized after asking a couple of women that question that's not a cool question to ask a woman because of the things that happen to women in our society. So we've changed it, and now, man, I've got a new favorite answer. It's really great.
And I was frightened in that situation too. That was my first code. That was the first time that I was in it, you know, and
but that's heroism, right? Heroism is not like walking around looking for an opportunity to it's not this narcissistic, egoistic opportunity to thrust yourself into the forefront of a situation. It's knowing that there's difficult work that's terrifying in front of you and doing it anyway. Yeah. And
that's a lot of nursing. I don't work with critical patients, but we have, you know, you have patients that you have to keep an eye on because they do go critical, and that's all part of that job.
I think it makes breaking a string at a live show a lot less you know,
missing a note. Doesn't matter.
Right. Nobody died.
Nobody notices.
Right. And that's the thing I've always told people who have that stage fright thing, is that live performance is going by so fast, and just recover quickly and keep moving, because it's just a tiny fragment of time.
Yeah.
A bad note is literally a fraction of a second. And
most of the time, no one notices but you.
Right.
And it took me a long time. I mean, I've been playing guitar for 20 something years, and it took me most of that time to come to that reality of, if you hit a wrong note, it's okay. And most people won't notice. And I really, also with Mean Queen too, I've really gotten into just enjoying playing. Yeah. And just getting up and being like, I love these songs, and I love this band, and I want to play these for people, but I also want to play for myself. Like, I want to play these songs, and I love playing them, and really just stop being nervous about any of that stuff, and focus on all the good during the show, and just really honestly enjoy it.
Yeah. What's that, Brian Eno? You know the deck of cards, the Oblique Strategies cards. Mm-mm. Brian Eno, the producer of a bunch of great records, and keyboard player from Roxy Music, had a studio partner when they were working in Berlin on Low, the Bowie record, and was it Low or was it Heroes? No, I can't remember. Anyway, he came up, because he's a genius, with this list of strategies when they hit a dead end in the studio, and they put them on cards so that you would shuffle this deck and draw a card. And they called it the Oblique Strategies. And one of them is, honor thy mistake is hidden intent, which I love.
I like that. Yeah.
When I make a mistake, it's never hidden intent. It's just me being tired. But but I think that recording, sometimes you do things and you think, oh, maybe it's a little better that way.
Yeah, I've definitely had that experience in the studio where, especially with vocals, because I feel like I'm not a super strong vocalist, or as strong as I want to be. And I'll have ideas, but not always be able to
realize them,
to get them. And sometimes we'll keep takes that just feel better, even though they're not exactly what I wanted, or it's like, well, I really wanted to hit in this note, but I hit this, but it feels so much better. And,
have you ever done lessons of any kind?
No. I really want to take vocal lessons because I think it would help.
I do too.
Yeah.
And not just because I feel like it's going to help my career, because at this point, like, I'm 50, like, a career is sort of, it's a thing that might happen, but more than that, I just want to be better at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here.
And also, singing is powerful,
Yeah.
And it's good to be good at things, you know.
Yeah.
Of all the things you've lost, what thing do you regret losing the most?
I thought about these questions before I came here.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember. I know a few people have said, a person, like their grandparents.
Sure.
And I do miss my grandma a lot. She's the one that I told you about this tattoo.
So Sam has a tattoo. Maybe we'll put a picture of it in the show notes or something. But it's a beautiful little doodle of a witch. And you said that. Tell me again what she said.
She was a self-proclaimed garden witch.
Garden witch, that's it.
White magic. She was really into nature and her garden, and she wouldn't even kill spiders. She was the neighborhood cat lady, and just the most kind and compassionate lady, and felt emotions for every living creature and every flower and everything.
And she signed her letters to you with that witch doodle. Did she write you a lot of letters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was an artist, and her handwriting is gorgeous, and she was a poet, and would draw me little things and write me poems, and she did that. I didn't realize, I'm not super close with some of my family members, my cousins and stuff, but until we were there when she passed, I didn't realize that she wrote everyone. I mean, she wrote all of her grandchildren letters.
Cool.
And
wait, was that a moment though? Did you feel less special because?
No, it made me realize how much love she had to give, because she wrote everyone letters, and she remembered everyone's birthday. She would call every holiday, and she was just she had so much love to give. And
when did she pass?
Going on 2 years now. But yeah, she was strong until the end. She had lung cancer and kind of hid it from everyone. I think she didn't want the attention. I don't think,
Did she smoke?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. She had emphysema and COPD. No.
Boy, I did.
Yeah. But yeah, she was just a very, very special person. And I know a lot of us think that about our grandparents, but she was so
she sounds
cool.
truly remarkable.
We used to have these conversations on the phone about her, just everything she experienced. She was like, well, I was a bartender, and we would just be talking, and she'd be like, oh, well, you've never tripped acid, huh? But let me tell you this time that I did. And
oh my goodness.
She would remember these, she was like, I remember, being on this drug and looking at my friend's hair and seeing every single strand, and everything she said was so poetic, and she had all these big experiences and was just very, very emotional and very artistic and very kind and caring. And I was there when she passed. She was had hospice in her house, and so we were all in her living room, and it was this very peaceful passing. And
you'd already been working as a nurse at that point.
Yeah.
So you had seen people pass.
Yeah, not as many. I mean, I don't work in critical care, so we don't see that a lot. But we have hospice patients on our floor. But it wasn't sad. It was very peaceful. I mean, I was holding her hand when she passed. She was 80. I want to say 80 something, 81 or 82.
And you were holding her hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were there, and it was, I don't know, it was very peaceful. And I think it was what she wanted, and it was nice. But I do miss her. I still have some of her voicemails saved, and all of her letters and stuff.
Yeah.
And
people always say, I'm sorry for your loss. But I'm really sorry for your loss, because she sounds really remarkable.
Yeah. I wanted more people to meet her, just because she was so interesting, and so, I don't know, she was a cool person.
Did she ever come to Athens?
No, she didn't like traveling.
She had an enormous garden she didn't want to leave behind.
She had an enormous garden. I have her little garden gnome that was in her garden. It's on my front porch now. But yeah, she was just a very interesting, remarkable person. Yeah.
Yeah.
She gave every last penny to the Humane Society. We made sure she had a check on her counter in her house when we were after she passed. We were going through her house, and
you said she was a cat lady. How many cats?
She had all the cats. Yeah. And when she passed, she only had one. So at that point, she had really, winded down on taking in cats. But always had lots of dogs and cats, and big animal person. She'd always ask how Bucket was, and send me, whenever she would write letters, she would address it to me and Bucket.
How did you name Bucket?
I don't know. It was just one of those names that popped up, and I was like, that's what it is.
It's one of the 5 perfect dog names.
I love it. I love dog names that aren't, usual names.
Right.
Or that aren't. I have a friend who has a dog named Banjo, which I love.
That's awesome.
It's such a cute name. Yeah.
Like Bucket, Beans, Banjo. There was another one I always really liked. Steve.
Yeah.
Something perfect about Steve
it's
the
great.
dog.
Yeah. Right.
And I have a dog named Sandwich. So,
yep, I love that. Yeah, that's great.
Tell me about a time that you received an act of kindness from a stranger.
I did think about this, and it involves you. I don't know if you remember, but
I don't.
My parents came to visit. So they moved me here in 2003, and then it took them, almost 10 years for them to come back to visit because they just didn't travel much and it's kind of a long drive and they don't like to fly. And I would always go home, I'd always go see them instead of them coming here.
Right.
So for them to come visit, they finally came out and we were walking around downtown and I was showing them around. And I think this was after I wasn't at ERC anymore, but we were almost right in front of ERC and we ran into you. And I introduced you and you said the nicest things about me to my parents.
Really?
And you're like, Sam, I know her from the coffee shop and she's a great musician and she is just the sweetest person. And we walked away after that and my dad, like my parents were like beaming after that. And my dad was like, are you the mayor of this town? Like you keep running into people, and they were just like, we're so proud of you. Like everyone we've talked to just admires you so much. And we're just so proud of you and for being this kind of person. And yeah, but that was a really nice moment. And I still remember it and you saying these things to my parents and yeah. And it was a moment for them too. And it was just this really nice thing.
It's funny. I'm just sort of like having this massive, like, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
But what I'm experiencing now is I'm thinking about what it would be like for me to have my daughter and know that she was somewhere where people cared for her.
Yeah.
Like that's really all I want,
Yeah. And that's what they wanted to. And it was a really nice moment. And yeah, I think it was a nice moment for me and for them. And they were like, wow, they knew that I was happy here and successful, but until they were here walking around and meeting all of, my friends and these people. And that's when I think they really understood it. And they were just like, we're so proud of you and of who you are and who you've become and who you surround yourself with. And it was this really nice moment.
Yeah. I'm
so thank you for that.
Super happy about that. That's so great. Tell me about your favorite place to play shows.
Ooh, I mean, in Athens, I love Caledonia. That's my home. That's where I've played so many great shows, and still, I'm comfortable there, and I love everyone involved in that place, and it's the perfect space for me. On tour, there's a place in Amsterdam called it's called the Milky Way, but I think in Dutch it's like Milkweg or something like that.
Right.
But that place was when I think about it now, it didn't look fancy. It was just a venue, but the experience there was so good, and like everyone who worked there was so nice, and I had a great show there. And I think about that place a lot in particular. For some reason, it was just a really nice place to play, and it was very memorable to play there. I liked that place a lot, and I'd only played there once, but it was one of those places that really stood out.
Isn't it great playing in Europe?
Yeah,
I've never gotten
it's
to the point
so different
where I'm because they're so glad to see you.
They cook you food, you show up, and it's like everyone's happy to be there in that moment.
I've never taken it for granted. Like I know people who are just like, oh, we gotta go to Europe to promote this record. I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. Like, I'm so sorry for you. Like, I don't. I mean, this the thing. People are always like, act like you've been here before. Like, don't always be such a wide-eyed. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. When I'm ever in there, I just feel different. Like I'm having the most special experience.
Yeah, they really take care of artists and musicians, and yeah, and the venues there are gorgeous too. You can play the tiniest venue, and they will have the nicest, green room, and they will have snacks set up for you, and or like I had so many home cooked meals at venues, where they had family style dinners, and you'd go and eat after sound check and hang out, and it's such a nice experience.
I just want to do that all the time.
Yeah,
I remember that there was just a whole lot of great photos of that Manor Astroman show in Paris.
In Paris, yeah, there's a great video from it too.
I haven't seen the video.
I'll send you the link to the video. I think there's the whole show. That was a really big festival, and we played with the OCs that night. And
oh man,
yeah,
they
were great. Yeah, that was fun. I don't love giant festivals, but I've grown to love the really good ones, and that was, you can play festivals that are poorly put together, and you show up and it's just chaos.
Have you ever seen that video of Trent Reznor being really mad about the European festival they played?
No.
Like he's in the back lounge of the bus, and he's like there's a cell phone video, and he's like, is it on? Is it on? I just feel like I need to get this off my chest. And he starts to vent about this bad festival experience, and then like halfway through it, oh man, the drummer who also plays with Devo and a ton of other bands, who's so great. What is it? Josh? Oh man, I didn't know I was going to put myself on the spot like this. I'll remember as soon as this interview is over, but he comes bounding through the curtains in the lounge, and he's like, hey guys, have you seen this movie? And I can't remember what movie it is, but he's just like totally like Reznor is trying to sort of paint this picture like it's this horrible dark moment, and
it's not at all.
Oh man, what is that guy's name? I can see him in my head. He's such a great drummer. He was in the Vandals. He's the guy from the Vandals. He's a super great drummer, but anyway, just super enthusiastic. Like it was really funny. Anyway,
having a great time. We've played some really great festivals in, especially in Spain. For some reason,
I love Spain.
The most well organized, and you can get to a festival that's huge and it's just chaos and it's stressful, and
right.
They're never that way in Spain. They're always so organized, and they're like, here's dinner, right. Like go have this home cooked meal for dinner, and right. Here's your set times, and I'll have someone take you to the stage at this time, and it's always so calm, even though it's this gigantic, huge thing that could be chaotic. It's.
Did you ever deal with the Cream Pop, the promoters from the Costa Blanca? They're based out of Benissa. They were great guys. They took care of the Lolos when I was on tour with the Lolos. It was one of the best days and nights of my entire life.
Yeah.
So, income and visa considerations aside, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
I love Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I do. Scott and Allison live there now, and I see their pictures, and I'm always real jealous. But it's so nice there.
I like them both so much.
Yeah.
I knew Allison from also the coffee.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of coffee, so I know a lot of people who work in coffee shops.
You do.
And she was always just this like bright beam of sunshine whenever I was coming into the coffee shop, and I'm so happy that she and Scott are happy over there.
Yeah. I'm gonna go visit them there eventually. But yeah, every experience I've had there has been really nice, and it's just really pretty there.
I like it.
It's striking. Yeah,
I love the
like
canals.
Yeah.
I don't smoke weed anymore, but
I don't either. I know that's not why I would go there, but it's just, I like the countryside there too. If you go outside the city, it's just gorgeous.
Trains are good,
and everyone is so nice there and so attractive. I don't get it. It's this perfect little place. I really like it.
Do you have a perfect instrument, and if so, do you own it?
Yeah, my Rickenbacker.
Which Rickenbacker
it's a
is
330.
it? You're the second person to talk about the Rickenbacker
I love
330.
it.
Maybe I need to get one of those.
I think you should. I got that one for my 21st birthday. It was a gift from my parents and Luke. They went in together and got it for me, and
That's so sweet.
I got it. I played a show on my 21st birthday with it, and I brought it to the show, and I opened it, and I was like, I can't play this thing. Like, it's so beautiful.
What
and I have
finish
since
was
beat it up. It's just black, but it's
that's not just black.
It's classic.
It's black.
It's classic, and I had always wanted one, and
does it have the checkerboard binding on it?
No.
Have you seen those?
No.
That's like the mod Rickenbacker. The two-tone checkerboard binding. They're kind of, it's cool, but I don't think I would want that to be the instrument that I play for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I didn't. And I don't think it was meant.
I've seen pictures of that guitar.
Yeah.
That was the Wii versus the Shark guitar. Yeah. Okay.
And I don't think it was meant to play the music that I play on it. Like I had the action lowered, and so I could play the noodly, silly stuff that Sharks played on it. But it's been my perfect guitar. I love it. I still love it. I've beat it up over the years, but I mean
that's a good thing, though.
Oh yeah.
I like the way that my drums look. The ones that I played for 30 years now.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yep.
So this is a relatively new question. And it's the last question, but so if you imagine a taxi that can go anywhere in time or space, and you get in and you say to the driver, take me home, where is it going to take you?
Where is home?
Yeah.
Like in my life?
I mean,
it can be any.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
It is. And if you haven't listened to the last two episodes, you didn't know it was coming. So yeah,
I didn't. I was prepared for the other ones.
Yeah, this is a new one.
Anywhere in time and space?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see. You know, since I grew up in Colorado, I miss the mountains a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be somewhere in the mountains in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time camping there when I was little, and as long as I've lived in Georgia and been up to like Blue Ridge Parkway, the mountains are different.
They're older.
They're
kind of worn down.
They're more, Colorado has these big, majestic mountains, and yeah, somewhere there. I don't have a specific place, I don't think, but I do crave like that mountain isolation, or like this beautiful lake that's with freezing cold water, and yeah, the colors there. Yeah, I do miss that, and I crave that, and I think that's where I'd like to be.
Josh Freese. Sorry. I just remembered the drummer's name.
Oh.
Josh Freese. So I'm sorry, that was one of those moments where it came rushing out of the back of my mind. That was the drummer that... Anyway, there's a writer I really like who lives in Lyons, Colorado, and fishes those high mountain lakes. Yeah. I used to be really into fly fishing, and I've never fished any of those lakes, and I've always wanted to based on his descriptions of it. It sounds like a beautiful place. I knew that question was going to be interesting after you told me that your parents moved so much when you were a kid, because I have a very strong connection to a specific place that was the only place I ever knew my grandparents to live, and that place is gone now, which is really hard for me. Yeah, but I wondered if there was a specific place, or if it was going to just more be like, I feel most at home in the mountains of Colorado. I think just general, Yeah, the first time I ever went to Colorado and had any time to really look around, I was surprised at how brown it was. I expected it to be greener.
No, green. We're green here in the south.
Yeah.
It's not. But the sky is bluer there.
Yeah.
I think it's the altitude, but I don't know. It's definitely browner, but more colorful in a way.
Yeah.
It's colorful Colorado, right?
Yeah. This has been great. I'm really thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been I've been surprised more than once in this interview, which I didn't expect. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that was great. She's great. She's super nice. She's also a really good guitar player. I'm going to put a link to that Paris Man or Astroman show in the show notes, just so you can see what a phenomenal guitar player she is. Come see Pinky Doodle Poodle. We're probably playing in your town, because I think we're playing in all of them over the next month and a half. I realize Pinky Doodle Poodle is kind of a weird band name. I kind of like it. They're a great rock band from Japan. I'm the only non-Japanese member. They're so much fun to play with. We have such good shows. I hope you'll come hang out. We can go grab a coffee or something before we play, and just shoot the breeze a little bit. Remember, if you're having a tough time and you're contemplating self-harm, you can always call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. A lot of good people work there. Thor Harris worked there. Working on my interview with Thor, we've just had a really hard time catching each other because we're both just constantly on tour lately. But Thor has talked about his time working on the Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the time when he called in himself, so we're going to talk about that when we do our interview soon. That number is 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. It might just save your life. Remember, be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Reach out for help if you need it. Go see live music. Support your favorite band. And remember, loud guitars save lives.